Thank you, Chair, for the introduction. Just let me get my thoughts together. My performance review that was posted and sent to each of you last week has caused quite a ripple in terms of my website. Is that I've never had so many views and I've never had so many people respond to say, about time somebody spoke out. I want to make some overall comments first. Is that my review only includes what I can observe, what I can read, and what I can hear, at board meetings in particular. Is that I'm sure that a lot of business of the board goes on in workshops, but in fact we're not allowed to go to workshops, and when you make inquiries on what was covered at workshops, you get at best either no response or a very skeletal response. Secondly, my comments are based purely on matters of governance and not on positions taken by any particular member. Councillor Coon emailed me yesterday. She said that I was not objective and was biased. I've asked her to explain what she means by that, which I'm sure she'll reply to me in due course, and I will publish that in due course as well. Thirdly, I've been preparing this review that I posted for 6 weeks. During this time, I consulted with a number of people. I had drafted a number of different versions. And as I observed and as I listened and as I watched, is that the flavour of it changed. The factors some of them became more important, some of them became less important. As a result of this, I tuned my comments and my scores. As regards the scores, it's an art form, I suppose. It's like the Academy Awards. Is that, sure, I could say some members should have 1 point added, other members should have 1 point taken off. However, I'm having thought about it a lot since some comments were made to me about the scoring, is that I'll stand by not the points necessarily, but the rankings. Is that Member Trotman, Member Bonham, Member Gumthorpe, and Member Christie, to me, cover the yards. As regards the other members, I'm sorry, they're woefully below standard. I wish to outline the 4 main elements of my review and what I base my comments on. Firstly, transparency. Apart from one member, no one has actually supported my repeated requests for greater transparency. Why? Is it because you are scared of it? Or is it because you've been told to hold the line? Secondly, an important element is representation. On Erebus, Western Springs and Soakaways, there is significant constituent opposition. Some of you wipe it away as the lunatic fringe. However, people like Dame Nader, respected Maori elder, and Cooney, who I notice is here, a 70-year-old plus grandmother, and the lady who climbed the tree in Western Springs, and I'm sorry I don't know her name. Is it Linda Sullivan. They're not part of the lunatic fringe. They're your constituents who actually have a strong view. And what's more than that, like any iceberg, they are the tip that sticks out. There is a whole lot underneath there who feel about it, but for various reasons are not jumping up and down. Good process. For the chair to say that Erebus process is totally flawed and still vote for the memorial is an epitome of bad process. To be told by a representative that opponents who cried bad process are just using this as a reason for ongoing opposition. This is the height of arrogance. Fourthly, the element is community involvement. I've seen photos of you all opening parks, attending pride parades, other photo opportunities. But how many have actually balanced that against taking an involvement on things like what's happening at Erebus or Dovemeyer Robinson Park at the moment? How many have actually shown interest of the concerns that the community liaison group are having over the Western Springs resource consent? To the credit of members Gunthorpe and Leone, since the last board meeting, they have both visited Dovemeyer Robinson Park. Furthermore, members Trotman and Bonham did attend the Environment Court hearing. As to the rest, I'm not sure. Were you not interested? Were you not prepared to break the line? I don't know. These four elements, transparency, representation, process, and community involvement, underpin 80% plus of my assessment.
Okay, thanks Keith. Now, are there any questions from members of the board? If not,
yes, I do have some
Sarah.
questions. I'm just trying to gather my thoughts because you touch on 18 months of hard work by me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, no doubt hard work by other members, but I can only speak for me. I'm just trying to choose my words to do this in the most polite way. We have a governance issue in this board, and I do not understand, and it won't come as a surprise to the chair because I've given him a heads up that if he wasn't going to step down, that I would be stating publicly that I think he should be stepping down at the 18-month period. I guess if I could give you an example of that, and there is a question coming. Of course, I've always got a question. I was sitting over where Member Gunthorpe is, having a cup of tea and a tea break in the middle of our first workshop, and the chair came up to me and he said, "I'm going to be the chair of this board." I said, "Well, isn't that something that you discuss as a board around the board table?" And he said, "No, there's 6 City Vision people and we caucus, so the decision's already been made." I was quite rocked by that, and I think it set a tone for the quality of governance. How do you think, am I wrong? How do you think a chair should be appointed to a board, whether it's a commercial board or a local board?
Yeah, I think it's totally appropriate that the discussion on the chair is done out of the public eye. I don't have a difficulty with that at all. But in fact, it should actually be amongst all of the members. They can all discuss and have a view. One of the issues that I identified in my report was that there are 6 City Vision members on this board, and there's 1 non-City Vision member on this board. How often does the vote go 6-1, 6-1, 6-1? Almost all of the time, because Sarah, you don't get any airtime. And in fact, if somebody feels that I rated you too highly at 9, my comment would be, you've got an extra point for your patience and your resilience and your determination in the face of a very difficult situation.
Thank you. My second point is around transparency, and it's a point for context and then a question. And the point is that in the interest of transparency, absolutely support open workshops. There are times when there's information that needs to be discussed as a board out of the public eye, but the majority of the times the workshops are behind closed doors just because that's how we voted. And I voted that myself in the first board meeting, and the reason for that was because that's the way it's always been done. Well, I realise that process is broken. So will you accept, please, my position on that?
Yes, I will. One of the interesting things that has happened recently, which some of you may have bothered to dig in and have a look at, is just what a number of local boards have done in Greater Auckland in the last 12 months. 3 have decided to open their workshops to the public. 3. Already there was an article in the NZ Herald written by the local democracy, in fact it was the local democracy reporter from Rotorua, talking about, and with a number of quotes from various people around the territory, the Greater New Zealand, about how we end up with things dropping into big black holes with council. We've had 2 deputations or 2 presentations here today, which is exactly what happened. People from the community have come forward, they've wanted things, they've got, well, thank you for your presentation, time and time again, and that's where it got. I asked at the second board meeting, I believe, if we could actually have videoing of meetings. All right, yes, there was going to be considered, my apologies, opening workshops to the public. The resolution was passed that the staff would look at that, and they did. But I had to extract their recommendation by sending a number of emails. And in fact, one of the interesting things in that report from staff, which is the same thing that was reflected at Waitemata, who have just recently opened their workshops to the board, is the staff don't want it to be open.
Exactly.
So, and
your third question, Sarah?
Oh, great. Yeah, I'll ask another one. You have not attacked me, but you have pointed out that I don't write written reports, and I do tend to say in one sentence what many people say in a page, and I don't go to opening of playgrounds and other things. They're very important things for our community, but my time is better spent. So to actually put in a report that I spent 6 hours in an environment court CLG meeting with a commissioner, and then 6 hours in the environment court watching 5 council lawyers beat up the beneficiary that took them to court, I just find it very difficult to then have the headspace to put things in writing. So I just wanted to say, let's agree to disagree, because it's very unlikely you'll ever get a written report out of me.
The reason why I make a big stand on putting written reports in the agenda is that if anybody from the public or from the community, your constituents, are interested in what's going on, then where will they go to actually see what transpires? The first place that they will go, because they can't come along to these meetings every month, it's only silly idiots like me that come along every month, is that they will actually pull out the agenda. And gee, golly gosh, in the agenda, we always get a report from the chair. Member Gunthorpe is pretty regular. Member Bonham, not too bad. For the rest of you, hit and miss, although I have detected that there has been improvement just recently. So therefore to say, oh, well, look, they're attached to the minutes. The game's gone. You're having a post-match analysis at that stage. Whereas if you find something in the agenda that you don't agree with, you come along, as is our democratic right, and you actually have a public forum, and you express your views. The board are not allowing that to happen.
Thank you. So I'll move we receive Keith McConnell's presentation of the meeting. The seconder.
Is no one else prepared to ask a question of elaboration?
I'm sorry.
You don't. There's nobody else.
We've heard this 6 times. Members of the
Keith,
public have
with respect, I talk to you almost daily via email. If you have any issues, you know that or if I have any questions, I will contact you.
You're
in the middle of a vote, those in favour will say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. That's carried.
I have the feeling I'm being closed down.
It's a 3-minute item. We've given you 13 minutes. I think it's fine. We're now going on to
Is anybody actually, other members, prepared to actually stand up and say, let's
So the
air
next
part of
is
the
Gail
democratic
Baldock.
process?
Gail Baldock,
Or are you under the thumb?
could you leave?
There's been a number of.
We've got
4-3
Gail
votes.
Baldock on next.
Pardon?
There's been a number
There's
of
been
4-3 votes.
two,
Name two of them.
Erebus and Western Springs, okay? The ones that have caused probably
Keith,
most of the people here to come.
Your time is finished, Gail's time is about.
Do you mind if I
Dr.
speak?
Chair?
No, I don't need to chair.
Yeah,
Thank
okay.
you very much.
Okay, Gail, you're on. Oh, okay.
It's with huge difficulty that I'm here today. This has been